Welcome to the show, Meg.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
This is one of the interviews where I'm like, why was she not on in like season one?
I'm
Like,
kind of offended, but here we are.
it's okay. We're in season five. I'm just happy you're here. A lot's happened. I mean, so maybe this is perfect timing because now we both have little ones that we can bond over.
Yep,
But you are a new mom. What's it like?
I am. She's 10 and a half, almost 11 months, and it's great. Honestly, she is the easiest baby, which obviously makes my life so much easier. She's a great eater, great sleeper, just happy. So it's been so great, and time is flying, and everyone has said like time goes so fast, and I like knew and like prepped for it, but even just being in it, I like mourn. She gets a month older, and it's just like I don't know, it's so sad. It's very exciting but sad.
Yeah. So you're probably deep into like trying new foods right now.
Yes, yeah.
It's
So we started
yeah.
on like we did the baby led weaning at 6 months, and that was just like licking things. But now she's like eating food, like she's swallowing it. So we're trying a bunch of different things.
Did it freak you out the first time she started gagging? Because I had to learn the difference between gagging and choking. And
Yeah.
gagging is how they're learning how to swallow. And at first I was just like, oh my God.
Yeah,
Like
she
I literally
honestly.
bought that tool that like can suck out food just in case.
Yep, the life hack. I got one of those too.
I have two.
She really like didn't. She really didn't give any scares, and
Oh,
I'm
good.
just very like kind of chill and calm, anyways. But my like mom, my mother-in-law, they're like, oh my, like she takes a bite. They're like this. I'm like the life hack's right behind her. She's good. They're like, oh my God.
Yeah. Ours was avocados. Like the first time I gave him avocados, which were great because they were like they're mushy. But he had like his first just like gag. And I was like,
Right.
and
You're
then
like
they get
ready.
it right out. And now he's
Yeah.
a pro eater. And
And that's how,
he
yeah.
still loves eating. He's a year and a half. So it's like, I think it's, I mean, not to give mom advice on here. That was not the plan, but
That's okay.
started
It's good.
early.
It's good for them. They got to
Uh-huh.
learn.
I agree. I agree. Okay. So you're clearly this YouTube sensation in the softball world, whether you like it or not. And a part of me, and most people that are, tuning in are probably coming from YouTube or Instagram. I mean, you have like over 100,000 followers on like every platform you have. So I think what I want to start with is where did that come from? Like, what made you want to be on platforms like that and share some of this coaching stuff with all of us? Because we've all learned so much from you.
Yeah, I started so 2020 when COVID was happening, I was giving lessons. I think it was part-time at a facility in North Carolina, and the owner wanted us to post once a week just drills or whatnot on the or the facility's page, Instagram page. So I was doing that, and my videos were like just doing really great. So my now husband was like, "Hey, why don't you make a YouTube channel just to make a couple extra bucks? Because your videos are doing great. You already have them." So I was like, "Yeah, sure." Um, so I did that. It was very scary putting yourself out there and getting critiqued and all that, but I did it, and it just kind of took off. And it took off quick. And then in 2021, I had someone reach out in the summer, like, hey, love your videos. Will you come to Boston and do a clinic? And I was like, yeah, I want to go to a Red Sox game. Never been to Boston. So I took my friend. We had a blast, did some clinics, went to the game, and then posted about that. And then just more people saw. And I've just been rolling with it. This was truly never my intention. Like I wanted to, my goal to put out the content was to help parents and kids, mainly parents, because giving lessons, and you know how it is, it's I see a lot of things, I hear a lot of things, and I'm like, man, these are really common mistakes or questions. Let me throw it out there to the softball world, because a lot of coaches in softball are dads who have probably never played, or they played baseball, and it's same but different. So just wanted to help everyone out.
Yeah, I know my softball dad, he played baseball, but again, like we were probably growing up watching YouTube videos every day. Like he would find a new one and be like, let's try this. Like Mike Candrea and back in the early
Yeah,
2000s was like knocking out a bunch of videos. Sue Inquist had a bunch of videos. And it's like, that was kind of what we lived on for a
yeah.
while. From,
And that was honestly one of the reasons why I was like, and I do think it, yes, I think my content is good, but I think a reason why it took off because there weren't a ton of updated YouTube videos. There was, even in 2020, unless I just wasn't very active on the softball side, there wasn't a ton of softball pages like there are now, at least from what I remember. There's a lot of baseball. So
Hmm.
I think it took off on YouTube because it was like, wow, it's up to date, better video quality, and she's explaining it in depth instead of just like showing a drill.
Hmm. Yeah, and you do such a great job of like breaking down everything. Like when
Yeah.
you even talk about just like the transfer, what it should feel like an egg, like
Yeah.
hitting your glove and taking it out. Like I think you just do a great job of like throwing out those analogies to help it just like click or, stick in your brain to like try to feel. Um, so from that, like, do you think your videos at the very beginning were good? Because all of mine
No.
at the very beginning, I look at them and I'm like embarrassed for myself.
Oh, as someone was just telling me that because did a clinic in Houston, and a little girl was like, "We even watched your videos when you started." I'm like, "Oh,
Oh
I
no.
like I'm yelling. No, I don't. It's hard. I don't even watch them. I'm actually in the process of like whenever I get time, like my first year, I'm redoing them because I'm like, and there's certain things, and you're like, why did I say it that way? I don't like that I said it, or maybe I said something wrong, and I learned that's not how you do it. So I'm like, I need to redo some of these.
Yeah, no, I feel the exact same way. I watch it
Oh,
and I cringe because I'm
right.
like, why did I explain it in that way? I would never explain it that way now. But
No.
that's like just evolution, You do it for so
Learning.
long, you
Yeah.
figure things out like how is it best going to be absorbed or how did I change my verbiage so that it makes more sense for athletes that are, and this is what I think you do so great too, is like I think an 8-year-old and an 18-year-old can watch your same video and be able to like take it in. And for
Yeah.
me, I don't think that I could do that for my first videos, but that's like something that as a coach I try to make sure I try to do with my athletes. And I think this is why I was so excited to get you on because it's kind of like it's a special gift to be able to work with an 8-year-old and an 18-year-old and find ways to help them grow. Because some people like they choose one or the other and they can't work with the other, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And I just really feel, and how I was taught and how I learn, it can't be complex. Like I need it to be so simple, and just how I teach. Like I don't know big words. I honestly kind of feel because social media, there's a little bit of competition is probably not even the right word, but it's so saturated with like drills and stuff that I personally feel people try and sound super smart to stand out. But again, talking to a 10-year-old, 8-year-old, or even an 18-year-old, it's like I look at some videos and I'm like, wait, I'm confused. I don't
You
even
lose
know.
them. Yeah,
Yeah. So I just have always been keep it simple. That's just the easiest way to learn. And the game is hard enough. Like we don't need to make it harder than it needs to be.
completely agree with you. Now, because you're putting yourself out there a lot, you probably, and I haven't seen a ton, but I'm sure there's like a bunch of trolls on the internet that have to say, oh my gosh, her footwork's bad, or oh my gosh, like that is so wrong. Don't listen to her. How do you deal with that? Because I think as a creator, but also athletes are dealing with people like that all the time. Like, how do you get over it? Or do you?
Oh, great question. So starting out, it was, and I'm very like feisty, so I don't really hold my tongue well. So starting out, I was very defensive because I'm like, and it wasn't even something where it was like, your footwork was wrong. It's like, you suck. Why are you teaching? And so it's like, I'm going to say something. But the more I've done it, and I have Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter or X, and YouTube. So I have a bunch of different platforms that do well. So I get it from all areas, but I have just gotten to the point, and there's some days where you catch me on a day where I'm like, I'm going to say something. But 9 times out of 10, I kind of just like laugh because they're only helping me. They're only helping me get my videos like kind of flowing and get engagement. Certain platforms you make more money the more views you have. So I try and think of it that way, like, okay, you're trolling, you're just helping me out. And too, and I know you can get this, like when videos go viral without even having to look at the views, your comments, like it's like one after the other. You suck. You don't know what you're talking about. How dare you teach this way? And you're like, that video went viral. I already know it.
No, that's so true. I'm thinking of one of my first videos I ever put out was like the worst quality video of all time. I was doing a drill called like the jump back drill at a clinic, and it was like on this really sketchy old phone, like quality sucked. And it went nuts because there were all these baseball players and like anybody can do that. This is stupid. And then you get softball people that are like responding to them saying, "No, you don't
Right.
know what you're talking about." So they're like fighting in the comments. And I think it was like over 500,000 views, which for
Yeah,
me is like a lot. You have
that
way
is
more
a
than
lot.
that. But like, I was like, what is life? Like, what?
Yeah.
But it's like
It's
most of those were hateful comments.
oh yeah. And it's like we're all human and it depending on what they say, it's just like and and it's not even just like about your athletic ability. It's like about your looks too, or just things that like people are just like really nasty mean. So it does take, and I'm 35, so I'm very secure and confident in myself now. If this would have happened when I was in my 20s, early 20s, that would be really tough. And I actually just posted something on Instagram because, and this is sort of on topic, but it was like promoting me to post my body to get more views. And and pretty much was thinking of younger kids. Like, I can't, thank God we did not have social media growing up. Like, I didn't get Instagram until I graduated college. So I was a little bit older. But I can't imagine these kids on social media. You're vulnerable already, very insecure. You're getting, I don't know, bullies and having to get thing or if TikTok's telling you to post your body to get more views, like social media, man, I love it and I really hate it. I'm not even gonna
Me
lie.
too. Yeah. I mean, because at the end of the day, you try to think like, how am I going to get a bunch of views on this? And you almost want to create clickbait. But at the end of
Yeah,
the day, it's like you want quality. And sometimes like the most quality video you put out gets the least views.
yeah. And when I post situations, and again, they're not exciting, I know, but they're very important for softball people to know. Like bunt defense, first and thirds, it's the least amount of views, which I know is going to happen, but it's also like you people need to know this though, because I see it and when I coach 14U and 16U, the situations in games, so bad, so bad.
What are some like the biggest situations where you're like, I need more people to know this? You don't have to describe it because we can send them to your videos. But
Yeah.
like bunt defense, I think like cuts and relays are always like a huge
Always. And
tipping point.
something small too, like runner at third. And this goes for the runner, so offense, runners, and defense. Runner at third, ball is hit to the left side of the field, just like working on checking the runner. And this was always a struggle, no matter what team I coached, either a runner at third or a runner at second, and the ball is hit to the left side of the field. For some reason, that was always a struggle. And you say, like, check the runner. So the defense, let's say shortstop, literally checks physically. The girl's halfway off the bag and they still throw to first. I'm like, okay, you checked, but if you check and she's off that far, throw it to second. And it's like, oh, okay, yeah, yeah. And I'm like, oh. So
Hmm.
I'm very big when I go to my clinics. I try and preach as much as I can. Like drills are great. You have to know the game because you could be the best athlete in the world, like athletically, but if you don't know how to play the game, college coaches don't want to deal with that or high school, you
Hmm.
know?
Yeah. And when you mention situations, it's like, I think when I grew the most in college, and you probably feel the same, it's like when we had runners on bases, we had a full defense, and we were just hitting balls, whether it was off front toss or, a semi live toss, something to just make it feel like a game and reactionary.
Yep.
That, and like having coaches encourage failure, like that is how I think our team was so good at base running was because, we had a runner at third and we were like, okay, your job is to be aggressive, push limits, make our
Hmm.
defense better, right? And then defense, your job is to make our runners better. Like do something crazy, like do something they wouldn't
Yeah.
expect and like react. And it's because we don't practice these things that we're thrown into a game and it's like all hell breaks loose and now everybody's mad at each other. It's like, no, like how are you expected to know how to do this in a game if you're not constantly doing situations like this in practice?
And it's funny you bring that up. Well, funny is not the right word because I don't find it funny, but I hear so many coaches getting mad we blew the game because runner on third, she scored, and I'm always like, how long do you dedicate situations in practice? Well, time's limited. I'm like, well, there you go. And it's the same as they don't ever do live hitting in practice, and then they start yelling at the girls because they look great on the tee and front toss, and they struck out every at bat, and I'm like, it's hard. You have to practice it, and like you said, which is not a common thing, is coaches let your players fail. You want them to fail. To me, that means like if you're messing up, you're pushing yourself and you're trying new things. Now, if you mess up every single time, obviously make an adjustment. But as coaches, I keep hearing that they're just like not letting their girls fail, and they're sitting on their, okay, you made an error, you're on the bench. And I hate that.
Hmm. I can't agree more with you. We could probably talk about this for a whole hour. But no, that was like super insightful and helpful. But before we get into more of these like nitty-gritties of defense and offense, which I'm excited to get into, I think we would be remiss if we didn't learn a little bit of your softball journey growing up. So if you could break, and this might be a really tough question, but if you could break down your softball story into like 3 to 5 minutes, which doesn't feel like enough time, I know. But like, what are some of those highlights that kind of made you who you are as a player, as a coach, and where you are today?
So I started t-ball when I was 5, and my dad was Division I baseball coach, so I was always around the game. Like he was a coach when I was born, so I was always going to his games. Started t-ball, and honestly, my story is not like it's not exciting on the softball side. Like it wasn't intense, and I don't know how it was for you growing up. It wasn't like it is now, by any means.
No.
It was more of like I love softball. I have Little League and I'm gonna go play X amount of games, not many, and then we go to All Stars and then season's over. And then you
Yep.
do it again next year. And I played more than three sports growing up. I did gymnastics. I did everything you could think of: soccer, basketball, volleyball. I played three sports through high school. I knew in high school, and I would say around freshman year, that's when I actually started travel ball. And by travel, I mean we go to the next city over. Um, Sophomore year, when I moved to North Carolina, it was a little bit more, I say, intense. We traveled to so in North Carolina, we traveled to maybe South Carolina, maybe Georgia. So it wasn't crazy, but it was very just chill. It wasn't intense. I just was able to practice, play, and have breaks, which I think having a break made me miss it and love it more.
Hmm. And were those breaks sometimes playing the other sports too?
Yes. Always. I never, so yeah, I never really had a break from sports, but going from, let's say, softball in the summer to basketball in the winter, to me, that's a break because it was like change of
Hmm.
scenery, new friends, new teammates, new coaches, new sport. And then I would go to volleyball in the fall, or I'm sorry, in the spring, and then start softball again. So, but yeah, in high school, I knew I was like, okay, it's getting a little more serious. I'm gonna go to volleyball practice, but then when I'm done, I need to come home and hit because again, I want to play softball in college. I know I need to put in the extra work.
Hmm. And when did you know that college was like on your sights? Was that at the beginning because your dad was already a coach in college? Or did
No,
you start realizing you were kind of good at it and you're like, I think I could do this?
I would say freshman year. I actually wanted to play volleyball in college too. Not
Wow.
both. It's like depend. I was like, honestly, whoever wants me, volleyball or softball, I'll go. I wasn't good enough as libero because obviously I'm 5'4" and I cannot be an outside hitter like I was in high school. So yeah, I would say freshman year in high school. It was never really pushed or talked about even before then.
Hmm. So when you did make that transition of like, okay, I want to play softball in college, what did training look like at home for you? Because I know when I made that decision, it got real intense with like dad was like, okay, dinner's over, let's go spend 30 minutes outside, let's go hit. And
Yeah.
it
So
was like routine. We were always training, it felt like.
like with my dad and my mom, but obviously more my dad because he coached baseball, they never ever pushed us to go train. If we were like, Dad, will you go hit me ground balls? He's like, absolutely. But I would always go out with my brother. My brother's a couple years younger. He played baseball. He actually played for my dad in college. But we were always outside messing around, playing catch, home run derby over the house, throwing balls against the garage. When I was older, I did it on my own. Because again, like my dad, he's coaching and he's not home. My mom, love her, but she's not throwing me front toss or anything. So I honestly had to go do it on my own. And it was mainly hitting. If I had time, if my dad had a couple hours in the week, he'd hit me ground balls, but it was all on me. So that, which I'm kind of proud of, that I had the drive to be motivated to do that all on my own. And then thankfully I had my brother to help out.
Oh, for sure. And age gap between you and your brother, he's
3.5 years younger than me.
younger. Okay, great.
Yes. Sure. Yep.
But that's like amazing that you guys had each other because I have two younger sisters, same thing. Like when we were young, we were just like goofing off in the backyard, playing games, like but then as we got older, it's like, okay, he probably saw you kind of pushing for this dream that you had. And of course, that's probably inspiring for him to want to go out and play.
Yep.
But no, that's really special. But did your dad at least tell you what it was going to take to get to that level?
Um, Not honestly, no. And
Really?
we've had this conversation because I'm like, I just seeing how parents are today, some are too intense. I'm like, I obviously never wanted that. And I love that he would go to games when he could and just he wouldn't ever say a word. He wouldn't say anything in the car unless I asked. Like I kept booting the ball backhand. What am I doing? He would tell me, but he never said it. So I tell him now, I'm like, I love that you were like that, but you could have given me a little bit more. And he just is always like, that just wasn't my place. He's like, you have your coaches, you never asked, or certain times you didn't ask. I didn't feel I needed to give it. And so we kind of joke about that now. Like, if we could go back, maybe you could have given me a little bit more advice.
Yeah. No, that's so great. And you actually just ran a clinic with your brother and your dad, didn't you?
I did. It was so great. We did it in December in West Virginia. It was our second coaches clinic, and it was awesome. I think so highly of my dad and my brother, and in my, maybe I'm biased. I think they're super knowledgeable. So it's just really cool my dad took over how to run a practice. My brother Matt did recruiting kind of tips for the parents, and then I just did a bunch of drills. And I actually had my hitting coach growing up who coached with my dad in college, but he did the hitting portion or the mental aspect.
That's so fun and so needed. Like as soon as I saw that you posted the picture of like the coaches clinic that you did too, it's like this is something that our game needed. And how did you like formulate that? Like was it just like on a whim? You're like, I think we should do this. I think it would be awesome. But, the fact that you're even devoting into like coaches and parents and like teaching them the ins and the outs, like I never even thought of that. I do like a post clinic like 30-minute Q&A for parents because parents got questions always, which is a lot of questions I'm asking you today are from them.
Yeah.
Um, but did you see the need or did all just the blocks line up perfectly for that to happen?
I definitely saw a need because I was getting it so much from coaches and parents asking, do you do coaches clinics? Do you do coaches clinics? At the time, so this was like 2023, I did like over 100 clinics throughout the like all over the country. So my thought was, well, if I'm traveling, the demand is there for the kids. Like I want to work with kids. But then I got to thinking, I'm like, obviously that's very important. But then I'm like, but I feel working with coaches is more beneficial because kids love them, but they forget in a minute what you
Hmm.
just said. So with coaches, you're teaching them how to run a practice, certain drills to do, the mental aspect, which they carry that for the rest of their coaching career. And then with my dad and my brother, I had always wanted to do something with them. I think so highly of them. And I just thought it would be a really cool kind of bonding experience. So I did that, and that first one last year, we had over 100 coaches. This one we had, I think maybe like 50 or 60, and I'm doing one in Minnesota next week. I've got about 65, almost 70 coaches signed up, which is so I'm learning like this is really wanted, so I'm going to do it.
That's so great. And I know people listening are going to be like, okay, how do you run a practice? Like, is there like a brief guideline that you kind of go throughout that clinic about how to run a practice?
Yeah, and I actually because this is probably the most common question I get, and I actually created practice plans on my website for this reason. You get 10 8U practices, 10 10U, 10 12U, so 30 total. But split it up into like 30-minute increments, depending on obviously how much time you have, but you run, or I'm sorry, you stretch, throw, and you can break up into groups depending on the age. So I say 8U, 10U, don't specialize. So break up infield, a group of infield 30 minutes, a group of outfield 30 minutes, switch, or maybe not even 30. I would say maybe 20, 25. Switch, once they've done both, everyone go hit. Or you could do a group hitting, a group um, fielding, or I'm sorry, infield and outfield, rotate once everyone has gone through three times, or, three rotations, then you could do situations. So you always want to do the infield, outfield hitting, drills, make sure you're seeing live hitting, which is not very common. And then make sure you're doing situations, at least 20 minutes of situations of practice, and keep it simple. One situation, 1 to 2 situations, depending on the age.
Mm-hmm. That's so good. Now let's say this team only has an hour to work together. What would you prioritize if they only had an hour?
I would either choose defense or hitting, maybe 20, yeah, maybe 20 minutes of drills, and then come together for situations. So you can get a lot of drills, and depending on how many coaches you have, and there's a bunch of drills out there too that you can have the girls working together to kind of like partner drills. But I would say about 20 minutes of either infield, outfield, or defense or hitting, and then go to situations. And you can even do a modified scrimmage. Stop, put girls on bases if you need to, do a 1-1 count. That way you're getting live reps in.
I know this is like our third time mentioning situations, but thinking of all of our college practices, we never went to practice without doing situations. Like
No.
never. Sometimes we had a full practice of situations.
Yeah. Because I just, again, it's like it does you no good to have quick hands if you like don't know where to stand on a cutoff, because it's just situations run the game. You just have to know where to go, where to throw. If you're not in the right spot, that other team can be scoring 2 to 3 runs. But the biggest complaint that I get from coaches is, well, there's not enough time. So then I'm like, if like, let's say you have an hour, you've got to devote at least 20 minutes to situations. And I know that stinks because you want to work on throwing mechanics, you want to work on footwork, you want to work on hitting, and you can do that, but you also need to work on situations. And then next practice, move on to, let's say you do infield and outfield defense for 20 minutes. Next practice, go hitting for 20, and then situations 20.
And I already know because I live in the Midwest and like half the time, sometimes you only have like three cages to work with a whole team. And
Yeah.
they're probably thinking like, how the heck do I work on situations? Well, from a hitting standpoint, situations can just be like, okay, you have a semi-live throw or even a machine if that's all you have, but you give hitters like an actual situation and a count and like make them kind of make it game like.
Yeah.
Um, if you were working with a team indoors and the space was limited, like are there certain situations that you're like, oh, these will totally work in the cage? I'm
Honestly,
really putting you on the spot today.
yeah, no, it's fine because I would say you can not so much situations, but I would say working approach, which is also very, very important in hitting. Because again, in practice, we're doing tee work, we're doing front toss, all of that. We're not, at least from what I see with the teams that I work with, we're not working on approach. It's kind of just going in there like, I don't know. Hopefully this is a strike.
Hmm.
So having pitchers, like you can even have a pitcher pitch, they're doing their workout, just stand in and you could say, okay, 1-1 count. This is what I'm looking for. And you can either just say yes or no if you would swing. You don't have to swing, space is limited. But go into the cage with even like a 2-1 count, kind of mess up or change the counts. That way you're working on different approaches.
So good. So good. Um, I'm curious if you want to go over some of the flaws that you're seeing out there because you do 100 clinics in a year, first of all. Will you ever do that again? Like,
No,
to me, that
no,
sounds insane.
not with a baby or kids. My goal is to do like 1 to 2 weekends a month, and two is like max.
Hmm.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
no.
Yeah. I love clinics too. And they're also kind of draining. Like, this is
Yeah,
why I'm like looking at you like, dude, how?
I
Like,
do. I mean, it the honestly the most draining part is the physical. flying or travel.
Sure. Yeah.
Getting to the airport, flying, getting a rental car, getting your bag. Like that's the hard part. The clinics,
Hmm.
I'm like, let's go.
Yeah, I mean, you could bang them out, but then I always find myself extremely fatigued afterwards. I'm like, I feel like I just played a doubleheader
I know.
and
I know.
and I need a whole day, which is like so cool and inspiring from, the outside looking in. Like you get to create your own schedule.
I
You get
know.
to be with your baby as often as you want to be, and it like personally, that is one of my biggest I don't want to say flexes, that sounds so funny, but like I tried coaching in college,
Yeah.
and it's your dad's done it, you've seen it. Did you coach in college at all?
No, I did
No.
not. Just high
So
school and
I struck
travel.
out. I tried 3 years and I was like, I'm done with this because like
Yeah.
I want to be able to be present, as a mom and be able to still make the game better. And I feel like there's also a way to like impact the game at a bigger level when you're not just working with like 20 players. You get to work
Yes.
with so many different players. Um, but yeah, I went off on a little tangent, but you coach, you do all these clinics, you've learned so much, and you see so many things. And I'm sure a lot of stuff that you see, whether it's East Coast, West Coast, whatever, there's some flaws that like you probably see often. So do you mind if we kind of like go over some of those big ones, depending on um, you know, whether they're hitting, throwing, things like that?
Yeah, so I'm gonna start with one that's not like mechanics or fundamentals, and people who follow me are probably so sick of me hearing this or sick of hearing this. But it's a in my opinion, it's a big problem, and that is effort. Effort and just like hustle and trying your best. And I truly understand young kids, and I'm talking like 8 to 12 years old. Like I get it. I'm sure I was lazy at some points, but we're just like I just the drills that I do at these clinics are just like going 50%. And I don't know if it's because they don't want to be there or they are scared to mess up, but that's my number one thing I'm always preaching. Like, I don't care if you mess up. I only care about is that the only thing I care about is that you are giving me your 100%. That's the only way you're going to get better. And I think I'm a little triggered by it because when I coached travel, multiple teams, we had girls who were goofing off, not giving 100%, and then they go to a game and they start whining about not doing great. And it like fires me up as a coach because I'm like, I have been on your butt since day one. You don't listen to me. And then you're going to a game, but then I start hearing the parents because I sit them because I'm like, you're wasting my time. You're wasting your teammates' time. But then you start hearing from the parents. And then that's what makes me mad. Then I'm like, I can't win here. I'm telling your girl to go 100%. She's not. And then I'm hearing from you.
They're
So
blaming you
accountability.
for their lack of success,
But
probably.
yeah, so there's just no accountability there. But that could be a whole another podcast. So that's my number one, effort. I don't see that a ton as much as I should. Like it shocks me. And then second thing I would say, definitely throwing mechanics are we're not focused on it enough. And I do believe it's because practices are so short that, you don't want to spend 30 minutes on throwing because we have to do situations, we have to do live hitting. But throwing, even just warming up mechanics aren't great.
Hmm.
Those are probably the two biggest things that I see.
Yeah. So when it comes to throwing, I'm thinking of, the fall. Again, I go back to college because I think from a training regimen, there's so much that I learned about efficient practices and like which seasons of the year are you spending more time on stuff. And it was like
Hmm.
we broke down the throw at the beginning of the fall, which is like when we arrived on campus. We were doing so much throwing, so much just like tiny little fundamental stuff there. And then obviously we're still throwing, doing like a good warm up come spring when we're about to start playing. But like we really did break down the throw, I feel like every fall, like hard.
Which you're Division One, which is that's such a great point, and I want you to like blow this up and make it super loud because you get 14-year-olds who are like, I don't need to do dailies. I don't need to do throwing mechanics. We already know what we're doing. And it's like, no, I'll always go into the first practice of every season assuming they have never played softball before. Obviously, that's a little extreme, but like go in, like break everything down. Make sure you're all on the same page. Maybe in the off season you got a little funky twitch in your arm when you throw. Like be on the same page. It's okay to do no, not okay. You should be doing the basic fundamentals even at a Division 1 level. I love that.
Hmm. Yeah. So like when you're breaking down the throw, what do you focus on a lot at the beginning?
Like the routine or
Hmm.
just like mechanics or both?
Honestly, I kind of want to get into both if you're okay with it.
Yeah. So my warm up or routine really isn't anything like complex. I always start square to my partner, like everything square to my partner, and I'm working on just turning and feeling that separation of upper body, lower body, because I see a lot of pushing, and in my opinion, when you push, it's because everything's turning together. There's just no separation. So I do that. I'm maybe 15 feet away, and then I'll take a couple steps back, and we just walk into it. So super, super light, or not light, loose in the arm. We're not throwing super hard, working my way back to maybe 120 feet and doing long toss and doing long toss the proper way, not throwing hard line drives, getting a little bit of air under it. And then I finish with quick hands. So we bring it in. We're about, again, 15 feet away, just working on quick hands, quick feet, doing 2 sets of 10.
Hmm.
And that's my warm up.
I like it. I just saw your video how you can't stand wrist flicks. And we were
Yeah.
all taught that growing up, by
Yeah.
the way. Like
Yeah.
all of
Same.
us.
And it's like, and I think too, I'm kind of sensitive to it because I do see a lot of this with the younger kids. And I even said in my video, I do think it's in large part to the ball being so big that
Hmm.
the girls are like, I hope this ball doesn't come out of my hand, which
Right.
it blows my mind that we're throwing these massive softballs with these like 8-year-olds, whereas baseball, they have this little ball. But I see the push a lot, and I'm like, so why? Like, we're never in this position. We're never here with the wrist, and we're never our elbow in front of us. So let's not do
Hmm.
that.
And for those of you who are just listening to this, you're going to have to go to YouTube and watch this interview so you can see what she means by this, the pushing part. You
I
probably
don't
are
do
thinking of what
that.
it is. Yeah, go to YouTube and then go follow Meg Rem on YouTube if you're not already, which I'd be surprised if they weren't. But no, I think that's really beneficial, especially because you see a lot of elbow injuries, you see a lot of shoulder injuries, and it's because they're using so much of their arm
Hmm.
that the legs aren't really helping. And I think the breakdowns that I see of the similarities of throwing and hitting, like I
Yeah,
see them all the time and I love it because as a mostly hitting coach, like the fundamentals of using the ground to help you turn, like grab, some of that torque to help get you to the ball faster, so similar to throwing.
yeah,
And
it really is.
yeah, and as someone who actually struggled with her throw, I got mono my freshman year and I had to like relearn how to throw because I couldn't throw
Oh,
for a month and I lost like 16 pounds. Like I like forgot how to do everything my freshman year of college. It was insane. But then I started like really thinking about the mechanics of the throw and I never really thought about it that way until I was like researching. But do
yeah.
you find this, do you see that similarity too?
I do, 100%. Like, even talking about just the separation of lower half, upper half, like you have to have that in order to get that, I say whip, whether it's throwing or hitting. And a common thing, even with hitters, is everything goes together and you don't want everything to go together. But yeah, no, I definitely see that. And even growing up, like and up through college, so we had a new coach my junior year in college. My arm was messed up. I think it was my elbow bicep. It just was bothering me. When I started to incorporate long toss and like again do it the correct way, my pain went away. I was
Mm,
strengthening my shoulder, my mechanics, we cleaned it up a little bit. It was like magic. And it was one of those kids in my head. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna throw a long toss when my arm hurts. And you gradually build up in time how much you're throwing long toss. But by the end, like middle of season, I was like, oh my God, my pain went away. It's a
hmm.
miracle.
I'm gonna let you plug yourself here and like where can people go to work on those mechanics? 'Cause I know you've built videos around this, but like what should they type into YouTube to kind of break this down if this is like a big thing that they want to focus on with their kid this year?
So you can go to my YouTube channel, Meg Rem Softball, and I have a playlist throwing. So you can just go to my playlist, go to throwing playlist, and then I have all of my videos in order there, and you can kind of see different ones. Hopefully the titles all are very self-explanatory, so you don't have to be like, oh, I need to. Why don't I do wrist snaps? Like the title is literally why I don't teach wrist snaps. So hopefully it's all right there, easy to find.
Yeah. And you recommend they start at the beginning and kind of just like work their way through it?
Um, there's certain video. No, because there's just so many different videos. It just, I guess it depends on what you're looking for. Now, my first video up there is how to throw a softball. And I want to say it's like 8 minutes long or so. And I'm literally breaking down how to throw. But then videos after that are, you're dropping drill to work on not dropping your elbow or whatever, sidearm, whatever it may be.
Hmm.
So there's just like a bunch of different topics on throwing.
Perfect. I love that we're breaking down the throw because I think that is where we find the most injuries in our sport. Like I have two athletes that I work with in person and they're having shoulder issues or elbow issues. I work with them on hitting, so like I want to just refer them to all of your videos. Be like,
Thank you.
go check
Yeah.
this out.
No,
Um,
and it is, and I do think it's just our body. I mean, especially when you get to college, we've thrown for 17 years. Like it eventually you're gonna have some wear and tear. I actually came back postpartum. I don't know what I did. I need to actually get it checked. I think all my ligaments were so loose, and then I started to throw. I think I came back too hard, but my shoulder now is just messed up. And like part of me is, I do think I came back a little too soon or too aggressive, but I'm also like, I mean, I've been throwing for 30 years. Like it's gonna eventually break down a little bit. So yeah, you got
mhm.
to take care of yourself.
Yeah, always, always. Is there anything on defense that you're sometimes surprised by when you do clinics, other than throwing? I know we talked about throwing, but
Yeah.
like that, you wish athletes were a little bit better at or focus a little bit more on? Like, is it footwork? Is it angles? Like, where would you see that athletes aren't spending enough time?
I would say with footwork, and it's hard to see obviously a lot at clinics because we only do defense for or infield for maybe an hour. But and this is so small, but it's a big deal in softball. I see a bunch of athletes who take really big steps, whether that's to the ball or after they field, which you can do, but it slows you down. And I know we think big steps to get to the ball quick, but when we do that, we're actually slowing our bodies down and we're not able to keep that momentum. So always working on short, choppy to the ball, depending on who is up, and you don't have to over exaggerate too much, but short, choppy, and then after you field, short steps. Because we also think after we field, we got to get to first. It's far away. I'm going to take big old steps. Well, the bigger steps you take, the longer you're holding onto the ball. So
Mm-hmm.
short, choppy before and after you field.
Mm-hmm. And then outfield, obviously, you have more time to take steps ish.
Right, right.
And you want to get a little bit more momentum on it. But yeah, when it comes to infield, I see the same thing. It's like we're do you have like drills actually that or one drill in mind that you're like, okay, this is actually pretty easy, self-explanatory that anybody could just whip out to work on, better footwork or even just throws to first?
Yeah, my first drill that I do in my clinics, I set up a line of cones. The athlete starts in front. I am maybe 10 feet away. And I say go. Right when I say go, I'm rolling the ball quick. The athlete is right when I say go, is going to go back, right, left, forward, right, left, field it, and then either throw it or pause in their throwing position. But the whole idea is because I'm so close and throwing it quick, they have to stay really tight to the cone. So short steps and they have to stay light. And that
Mm,
just, you'll see like some of the younger kids, you say go and they're like, boom, boom, boom. And then I'm like, and the ball's in the outfield. I'm like, okay, so this drill is really self-explanatory. Like you got to go quick in order to field this ball. So that's a really,
hmm.
really easy one that I like to do.
That's one that I think Morgan Stewart used to do at package deal clinics a lot. And I know you actually just did you do a clinic with her, right?
I did coach's clinic. Yeah, in
Yeah.
October. It was awesome. She's
Yeah.
so great.
You and her, the way you like share your love of defense, obviously, but also just your verbiage is very similar too. So I
Yeah.
love that you guys got to get together.
And that's why I wanted to do something with her because I'm like, same thing. I'm like, I just feel we're very similar and not in definitely in like coaching the physical part, but more like also the mental part. There's just no BS, Like we're just
Hmm.
gonna say it how it is.
Yeah. Which is funny you say that because when I was watching some of the videos you posted of your coach's clinic with your dad and your brother, or at least it was when you were doing Q&As, your
Yeah.
dad was talking about the almost like no nonsense approach. Like, hey, if you overthrow me, I'm not getting it. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. And I really think we just need more. We gotta like toughen up or again, maybe like hold accountable is not the right word, but we've got to we got to push the kids to be better instead of just being like, it's okay that you went 50% and you made 18 errors in 1 hour. Like, it's fine. Like, no, we need to get on their butt. And the main reason for that is we want to make them better. It's not to be mean. It's not to be like oh, I'm just gonna like make your life miserable. It's like, no, I want you to be better. So I'm gonna push you. But yeah, my dad, and that's where I learned my kind of no nonsense. It's like he had zero tolerance for any of that.
Yeah, which is great. I mean, you even said it. You didn't have a ton of time with him because he was coaching in college.
Yeah,
So he's like, he probably said multiple times, stop wasting my time.
probably. Yeah, honestly, probably. And I'm
Because
like,
my
oh,
dad did.
whatever.
Yeah, I know my dad did. No, that's perfect. What do we need to know more of, like from that no nonsense approach, from a parent standpoint? Like, because I know you said like get on them, but is there like a specific approach that he did that you're like, no, that's kind of how I do things now because I respected that he did this to me growing up.
Yeah, I guess like tough love. Maybe that might get a bad rap because it might sound more like tough than the actual love. And he might actually say now that he's older, because you hear from some of his former players, and they're like, "Dang, your dad really was very tough. Like, didn't give much positive feedback." He would say now, like, if he could go back, he would change that. Again, from what I see at clinics, I just think we need to be tougher on the girls, but also be positive. Like, give positive reinforcement when it's warranted. If, maybe she struck out 3 times, but did she have 3 great at bats? She swung it hard. She just missed the ball instead of like, God, 0 for 3. It's like, you know what? I love that you went in there and swung out of your shoes. It happens. But now if they're being lazy, get on their butt, make them run. Because again, it's just only going to make them better. And it's going to make them better humans after softball, which should be our goal as coaches.
Hmm. Yeah. So those things that you're applauding, they sound like effort, you know?
Yes. Control the controllables. I know we've all heard that.
Right. Yeah. And then the things that we get upset about, you're allowed to get upset about is laziness, is probably like being a bad teammate.
Yep.
Those are things where I'm like, polls all day long, right?
There's zero tolerance for that. Because I hope every coach in the beginning of the season, first practice, lays it out. No laziness. Respect your teammates, respect the coaches. And if you don't do that, literally zero tolerance. And again, hopefully you have everyone buy in very quickly. And I know we all have those girls who don't. I've had a couple on my team, and they sit the bench and then they eventually quit because they're unhappy. And that's life. Sorry. I told you many times you didn't want to make the adjustment. Go find another team. And they usually do.
Yeah. I love this. I love this so much. Okay, so now let's go a little bit into the hitting aspect. At your clinics, like what are things that you see often that you're like, hitters need to spend more time doing this?
um, this is so silly, but how to set up on a tee. I
Mm,
It is, and it doesn't matter the age. It could be a senior in high school. They're hitting, let's say, down the middle, and they're completely like in front of the tee. The ball's behind them, and it's common everywhere I go. So that is, I mean, timing is everything. If your timing's off, your swing does you no good. So something so simple, tee work and setting up right on the tee.
I love that you're saying that because my last clinic that I just did in December, I had this plan to do because I love doing the tea work at the clinics at my station. And I was gonna do like this big like power drill because everybody loves working on their power.
Of course.
And then it was the older girls, and I was just like, you know what? We're actually gonna hit 45 balls off the tee, and we're gonna hit 5 balls in each of the 9 spots.
Hmm.
And we're gonna go over where you're supposed to hit them because I even find these high schoolers don't even know where to put the tee to
No.
efficiently get through the ball.
Right.
And I was taught growing up from my hitting coach that you're going to take 45 balls off the tee, at least 3 balls in each of the 9 spots. We hope for 5 because you want to create the muscle memory to get to each position and figure
Yes.
out what does it feel like to really get through a ball. And yeah, so like we did this, and I blew some girls' minds by saying, yeah, on the outside pitch, you don't have to hit it by your belly button. Like,
Yeah.
I know we
Right.
were taught that growing up, but like the way your swing works, and everybody's swing is different. And you're also a very tall and long player. That's going foul all day long. Like you're
Yeah.
allowed to hit that ball like wherever you hit it hard there. Like for me, my approach on outside pitches, I'm also like almost 6 foot. Like I'm trying to hit it up the middle. Like, and I
Yeah.
know that sounds weird and like not conventional, but your job is to figure out how to hit that location hard. So put the tee where you can
Yeah.
hit the ball hard.
And for
Like,
me, it's deeper because it's just how I hit. And I wasn't really
mhm.
ever a power, not I say ever, I was never a power hitter,
Yeah,
but
you
that's
slapped a
something
lot,
too.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I was a righty hitter up until I was 17. But anyways, it's just kind of remembering every hitter is so different, but also going up. Don't just go up and just like swing and be like, "Oh, next." Like it goes back to the fundamentals, even on defense and throwing, breaking it down, having a purpose in every rep because you want to create good habits. You got to get rid of the bad habits.
Hmm.
But yeah, it is crazy. And those are like the videos that I try and I like wish.
They
Who
don't go
cares?
viral.
Yeah, the who cares about the power drill that we did, whatever for hitting. Like, I want you to see this video.
I know. And it gets like literally thrown in the back. Nobody,
I know it's not exciting.
it's not exciting, but but you can say this, your dad can say this, your brother can say this. It's the boring that
Yeah,
makes you elite.
yep, yeah. I completely agree with that. And I like act like I know and I don't. I'm just like assuming. I'm like, because to the younger kids, I'm like, did you watch the College World Series? They're like, yeah. I'm like, do you know Oklahoma? They're like, yeah. I'm like, you better believe they do dailies every day. Do I know that? No. Do
They
they?
do.
Probably.
They
Okay,
do.
yeah. Like if they can do it, 4-time champ, like you can do
Hmm.
it.
It's the boring, it's the everyday, it's the
Yep.
you just footwork. Like you just it's so funny. When I coached, this is off topic a little bit, but when I coached at Notre Dame for a season, Lizzie Ristano, she used to be Lizzie Lemire, she was the hitting coach. And I was so shocked to see how she ran a hitting practice. She did the same thing every single day. The girls were doing so each one of them had like a specific drill based on what their needs were as hitters that they had to do every single day. And it was boring and monotonous, but what she was instilling is that like there is a very important reason why you're doing this.
Hmm.
And like those girls did not just take that drill easy, even though they did it literally every day, they could do it
Yeah,
with their eyes closed. They did it with intention every single day. And
I
I will
love that.
say, like, there were one or two that didn't, and like they weren't starting. So, like, if that tells you anything.
No, and I really love that. And it's a
Take
good
it.
point to make because even with coaches who kind of are newer to coaching, they think they have to do 6 different drills every single practice to keep it fun and exciting. And I really do try and remind them, like, you don't have to. Now, younger kids, yeah, you want to keep their attention and maybe
Right.
try new things, but you don't have to do 1 billion drills. And I try and tell them too, I'm like, listen, I post a bunch of drills because I have I have a whole audience or everyone's different. So I'm always posting things to give ideas to different people. But know what works for your girls and really like that hitting coach, like keep it simple, do the same stuff over and over because we want to get to a game and we want it to be easy. It's never going to be like easy, but we want it to be easier. Practice should be
Hmm.
hard. Game is easy, should be
Hmm.
easier.
Yeah. And of course, like we went into other things every day. Like there was one station that literally they call it the impossible station. They had a rise ball machine that like it literally moved a ball like 2 feet. And in the fall, like, but we did it every day. So like in the fall, nobody was touching it. And then all of a
Yeah.
sudden, like close to spring, like people are touching the ball and they're getting so excited just to touch it. And then, come like season, some of these girls are actually hitting it. And
I
so
love
it
that.
makes the rise ball like come season not as scary because who can move a ball 2 feet other than, Kat, Monica, like
Right, right.
when I faced them, yes, it did move like that. But, if you over exaggerate your training, like make it so hard mentally,
Yeah.
it's like you build this toughness so that, like, in a game, when a girl hit a rise ball, everybody's going freaking nuts because they're like, rise ball machine, like, and these are
I love
college
that.
athletes, and like they're being challenged like that every day. Sorry, I could talk about hitting for days, but no,
Which
I
is fun.
think,
I
yeah,
don't like I do hitting because you have to. I'm the same way with defense. Like hitting, I'm just kind of like
I
defense. I'm
know.
like
You have your thing that you like love, but
right.
as someone like I do respect that you do hitting stuff as well because you have this following that like trusts you no matter what. And so you're like, well, I need to give them, everything. But
Right. We
no, I
try.
think I think that's awesome. Okay, so I did not know this about you that you were a righty hitter until you were 17.
I actually was a righty hitter until so at 17, I decided to do slapping. I did both, which gosh, no one told me not to do that. Finally, so I did righty hitting and slapping through college, which
Wow.
is ridiculous. Finally, my senior year, I decided like I want to just stay on the left side. I was just really fast. I was a very good contact hitter on the right. But I was getting on way more on the left because I literally I was really good at bunting. I could
Tap
put
and
it right
go.
down the first base line. So
Hmm.
I was like, forget the left side or right side. And that was my best year by far on hitting wise.
Yeah. Do you feel like as a slapper, it's fun to make the defense look like idiots?
Oh my gosh. Because it's the best part too is you don't have to look great. Like it doesn't have to be a pretty swing.
Nope.
You literally put the ball in play. But I was really good at placing. So yeah, no, I did not have, and I started so late. I was never a power hitter or power slapper. I was just really good at, I'm like, okay, then I can see them moving like, okay, she's up. We're going to move her here. And I'm like, boop, up the middle. Oh, you moved over the middle. I'm going to go 5-6 hole now.
And I don't think, I'm already thinking of some things. I work with two slappers. I slapped 2 years of college as well, which is like
Oh,
nobody believes
nice.
me. Um, Probably because like I did devote a lot to my power and like whatever. But having good touch is like so forgotten. As a slapper, everybody's like, "Oh, I just want to be really good at power slapping." I'm like, "Why?"
I
Like,
know.
why? Because if you have good touch and you can place it where you want it, you literally pick out the worst defender and you can get on every time. I mean, that's an exaggeration,
I
but
know. And
like,
I kind of think it's like the internet. I know that might sound so ridiculous, but you see power, 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 which yeah, I wish I could hit bombs and whatever, but it's
right.
like in a lot of coaches I hear it and parents say, "Well, college coaches aren't looking for slappers anymore." I'm like, "Says
Have you
who?"
seen LSU? Like,
Right. And I'm like, what are you listening to or who are you listening to? But I'm like, is it because they're seeing on the internet everything's power, power, power? And yeah, no, are there 10 slappers in a lineup? Of course not, but you usually always have at least one. I
hmm
mean, but
yeah.
yeah, don't listen to people, please.
Please stop. Um, yeah, no, this has been so much fun. Is there anything else from like that you want parents to know about their athlete or, when they're working with them from home? Like what would you tell them that they should emphasize or do more of, less of, like in order to help their athlete, one, love the sport, but like, maybe even just be motivated on their own to like put in work.
Yeah, this is so corny, but have fun with it. It doesn't have to be life and death at a young age. Like go into games and practices, like obviously preach, give 100%, but it should just be like just a fun game to do, to go play and if they want to practice, great. I do think it's good. And your kid best. Like some kids like need to be pushed, others they don't you don't need to push them or they can kind of be self-motivated, but I think push your kid a little bit. That's always our goal, to make our kid be the best that they should be. You want to push them to their best ability, but yeah, have fun with it. Be patient when you're working with them. The amount of times I see parents yelling at kids, and I even saw that my parent daughter clinic where it was literally the whole purpose of it was to bond and have fun. Dad's yelling at his girl, she's crying, and I'm like, oh my God, this should
Hmm.
be fun. So this game is very tough, especially, and if you've never done it, you don't understand. Making adjustments is very, very hard. Or like changing bad habits, it takes time. Be patient and just, keep working at it. And eventually, if you're consistent, it'll all work out. But have fun. We're missing that part. Have fun.
I couldn't agree more with you. I mean, it just takes me back to when we were like playing with our siblings in the backyard. Like, we didn't need our parents to like push us to go do that, but like I think that's where we built a ton of our athleticism. And like
Yeah.
when dad would come out and hit balls with us and just smoke it, and like we're like, okay, dad, like way to go. But like that was kind of just the fun part of it, was to do it together as a family. Like we
Yep.
looked forward to going out and practicing. I'm not gonna say every day. Like you're gonna have your
Right.
days where you're
No.
tired or like you're on your period. Like there are all these things that make, not every day fun.
Yeah.
But like a little bit of effort goes a long
Yep.
way. And if you just keep it fun, man, like that's why we played in college, I think.
And if
Is
you're
because even when it was tough, it was still fun.
yes, and when you play well when you're loose. And when you're so stressed out, like, oh God, I hope I don't make my mom mad up to bat, like you're not gonna do well. And you were probably the same. Like again, times have changed, but I don't remember wins or losses when I was younger. I remember what cheers we did because that's all we cared about. What socks, what sports bras we all matched with, like stuff like that. What we did after games, like the bonding, like that was,
Hotels. Yeah.
yeah. And I look back and I'm like, that was the absolute best time. I don't remember one win or loss. My memory also sucks, but I'm like, I don't like that's not what I cared about. Now, I was very competitive. Did I want to win? Yes, but we're just making it so intense at such a young age.
hmm Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Before I ask you the fun Five to Thrive questions, which I promised you, where can people follow you? And we'll start with that. We'll start with that. Where can
Okay.
people follow you?
So I'm on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, X, and TikTok, and it's all Meg Rem softball. That's my handle for all of them.
Perfect. Easy. And all of those will be in the show notes for people to click on and go follow if you're not already. But again, I'm going to assume the majority already do. What do we have to look forward to from you this year now that we're in 2025?
Um, some exciting things. I've got hopefully a couple partnerships on the horizon. And I am actually starting a new company that I can't give details on yet, but it has been about 2 years in the making and it has been a ride, but I am so very excited to eventually launch it because I feel like it's needed. And I'm hoping to launch that in like the summer. So stay tuned. But
Mm.
I'm gonna keep doing my clinics. I'm gonna keep doing coaches clinics and hopefully just pumping out some more videos.
Yeah, that's exciting. And you will have our full support whenever this
Thank
launches,
you.
but I'm already so excited to hear what it is. And if it's anything like what you've already built, holy crap. Like,
It's
it's
more, yeah,
awesome.
it's not, yeah, it's not training.
hmm
That's all
It's
I can
different.
give.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a new challenge because you need new
Yes,
challenges now.
completely.
Always an athlete. Amazing. Okay, so Five to Thrive questions. Let's start with number one. What's your
How
favorite
fast,
infield?
how fast, oh, sorry. How fast
Oh,
do I have to answer these?
just whatever comes to mind.
Okay.
Don't overthink it. Your fave infield drill at the moment. It's a go-to.
Probably quick hands. You have a flat glove and someone will toss me like 10 balls in a row, catch whether my feet are staying still, square to my target, or moving my feet. Love quick hands. Flat glove.
Can't do enough. Um, Fave athletes to watch when you were growing up.
So honestly, softball wasn't really on TV growing up, so I was a huge Cleveland Indians fan. Omar Vizquel, Jim Thome, Manny Ramirez, all of them, love them. Robbie Alomar. I
So
know, I'm
good.
such
No, it's awesome. I love that. A moment from your career that you're never gonna forget.
hitting a home run my junior year on the right side because I did not hit home runs. I just remember I sprinted around the bases because I was like, it's not going to be a home run. And then all my teammates were there at home. Like they were more excited for me than I was because they were just like, Rem hit a home run. And they like lifted me up. We were like killing us. So it wasn't even like it was like a walk off or anything, but it was just really cool. And you get this, like teammates are the best thing about college. And they
Mhm.
just were always there for me. And I love them. But yeah, that was the most special moment.
That's so great. What is the biggest lesson you can think of that your dad taught you growing up that you're grateful to have learned?
Hard work, just always putting in the like nothing is given to you. You have if you want something, you have to go work for it. And plain and simple. There's no easy way around it. There's no shortcuts.
I think what's amazing about your answer is as I was writing that question, I was like, that exact answer you just gave was the one I would give from my dad.
Yeah.
Like nothing is going to be handed to you. And when as
Which
soon as you think it will, like you're screwed.
yeah, and I think and again, we grew up in a different generation, but at least just from what I see now and when coaching teams, I feel a lot of kids, regardless of the sport, think playing time is given. No, you have to earn that. Like it's never now, unless you're AU, fine, everyone gets to play. But I say 12U, you got to start earning your spot. So put that work in. And if you don't, it's going to show, and then you're probably not going to play.
Exactly. You'll never regret not putting in the work. Or wait,
Facts. You'll,
you'll
I
never
know.
regret putting in the work.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, final question. So you gave birth to baby Quinn recently, and I'm sure she's a big, like, new inspiration motivation for you. What
Yes.
type of legacy are you trying to leave for her one day?
Great question. Kind of just showing her, not kind of, showing her you can be a mom and a good wife and a business owner or just working in the corporate world, whatever you're doing, and like kick ass at all of it. You don't have to just be a mom or a wife or, just work. Like you can do it all. It's hard. You get it. Like the days are long and it's tiring and you mess up a lot, but like you can, God, it's just again so corny, but you can do anything that you put your mind to, truly.
Hmm. I love it so much. Best way to end this episode. But thank you so much for coming on. Seriously, from
I love
someone
it.
who's wanted to pick your brain for years, I'm just so glad you're finally here. And some of those topics where you're like, we could spend a whole hour on this. We
Great.
might just have to in the
Welcome
future.
me back in season 6 and we'll do it.
I don't even know when season 5 ends. I just call these seasons whenever I take breaks.
Perfect.
No, it will be so good. I'm so excited for what you're launching. We're all going to follow you if we aren't already. And just thank you so much for coming on. This has been a blast.
Absolutely. Appreciate you having me.